Lungi, a word that has rarely been caught in political crossfire, but has always been a strong cultural identity from south to east to even north. The SRK's Lungi dance in 2023 evoked different emotions and mainstreamed Lungi for Bollywood, but in many regional superstar-studded movies, Lungi for a very long time has been a deliberate, decisive choice of clothing. Lungi has many versions. Lungi by itself, Mundu, Dhoti, Veshti. From Mohanlal to Rajnikant, Vijay to Shivraj Kumar to ordinary citizens slaying it with the Mundu. I'm using the word slaying, but really it's part of everyday lives. And then one has the furore in Parliament. Joining me right now is John Brittas, a CPM MP from Kerala in Rajya Sabha, who has very strongly objected to repeatedly being called a Lungiwala. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. John Brittas, for joining us. You know,
thank you.
One question I want to ask you straight up. What I want to get into your mind and try and understand what made you so angry, what made you so upset at being called a Lungiwala?
See, Lungi is innocent. Nothing wrong with Lungi or Lungi word. But when you politicize it to ridicule somebody, there lies the problem. In fact, when I was called Lungiwala, it was intended to be a slur on me and the South Indians. And many a time, Lungiwala was a derogatory phrase which was being used against South Indians. It started in 1960s in Mumbai. Lakhs of South Indians were driven out from Mumbai and adjoining places. And at that time, the coinage Lungiwala was used widely as a derogatory term. And again, in some places, including Issa, this Lungiwala term is being used. So Lungi is very innocent because millions of people have Lungi, as you rightly said, different versions of Lungi. But in Parliament, when there is a political discourse happening, addressing somebody as Lungiwala with scorn, with ridicule, is something which I object to. And I feel that the entire House, and especially the Honorable Chairman, also understood the nuances of this use. And the ruling given by the Rajya Sabha Chairman is something which should be underscored when we have a discourse of this in future.
You know, Mr. Brittas, you rightly pointed out what happened, what the chairman said. You have Sushmita Dev, the BJP MP, who says she never meant to, but she in no way has cast aspersions on any attire. But you've used a very important word. And you've used the word that you see it as a slur. Why do you see it as a slur amid a political discourse? Slur, demeaning. You know, for somebody, and I have seen you wear the Mundu, and I have seen politicians wear Mundu from across states, and it's not just a South Indian phenomena. And it looks beautiful, and it's not just a Mundu, it's the Lungi, the Veshti, the Dhoti, whatever you call it. In this particular case, it's the Lungi. From being an MP that represents Kerala, left politics, is in the parliament, what makes you think this is a slur?
Obviously, see, I'll tell you, when I said that that article or material Lungi as such is very innocent, but many a time such derogatory usage of such terms are very much discussed in our political discourse. Now, let me just tell you one thing. See, she intended not to compliment my attire very well. Anybody knows that. Why it was used. It was used as some sort of an othering. I mean, she was othering me from the others. The sense there was a divisive way of using that term. And everyone felt that. It was not to compliment me for wearing dhoti. First of all, she doesn't know the distinction between Lungi and dhoti. Or, I mean, that's another thing.
Mundu to take it to another extent, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't want to go into the nuances of that word and nuance of the dress. But I can tell you one thing. In Indian politics, many a time, see, to divide the people, such usages have been made as a slur. And I obviously underscore what happened in Mumbai, what is happening in
Mr.
many places.
Brittas, would you take us through what you are referring to? I mean, it's an important conversation, and especially at a time when you have a whole lot of politics from a, there's allegations even against the media that the news, the coverage, the politics is from a very northern lens, from a very Delhi lens. Politics as such is also now very, seen from a North India, South India lens. Very different patterns to it for that matter. When you say it's often used as a political tool, as a slur, what are you referring to? Are you referring to clothing in general, about how one uses? We've seen it with Mahua Moitra in the past as well. We've used it with Priyanka Gandhi as well in the past. But when you're talking about Mundu and you're saying it's often used, what do you mean by that?
I can tell you one thing. See, many a time, even the attire, even the cuisine are being used as weapon to, create divisive tendencies amongst the people. And I can recollect many instances when people from the south used to be, addressed as Madrasi, Sala Madrasi. That was the word. That means they were not bothered about, where they are from. But this so-called terminology which was used was to, segregate them from the mainstream. I can also tell you that people from the northeast always suffer discrimination. They have been called certain words like Hindi, that means Chinese. A student had to commit suicide because of such derogatory dosage, which was found non-keeping. So our constitution respects the diversities, rich diversities of this nation. When such derogatory terms are being used, the sanctum of the Indian Parliament, I feel that it's my bounden duty to point out and object to. And I'm happy that the entire House also resonated my view. So if you segregate, that issue from the Parliament and the ambience and the ecosystem, maybe I may not be having that much of weightage. But what was actually happened was that there was a heated debate that was happening in the Parliament, and I was continuously being heckled or rather disturbed by this particular member, and she was not in her seat actually. She came all the way from the other extreme and sat behind me. And when she was disturbing, I said, "Please turn goats," because she had changed her party twice or thrice now, actually. They are much more enthusiastic in disturbing the opposition members. And there was no reason or rhyme to disturb me because most of other opposition members had boycotted the House. I was the only one from the India Alliance to be there because I had this statutory motion to move there against the bill being introduced by Nirmala Sitharaman. So just one single member from the opposition, when he is talking, when all of them gang up and disturb, naturally there is an acrimony scene which is developed. And at the peak of that debate, if somebody is calling somebody Lungi wala, what does it mean? It simply means it's a derogatory term. So everybody understood that. So let us not, connect that as though we are going to a shop to buy a lungi or a dhoti, and this word being used in Parliament. So entirely different. That's what I said. The lungi as such per se is very innocent, and very convenient clothing. But when that is being used in a particular context, an ecosystem, that becomes derogatory. And I feel that anybody and everybody has to take objection to it. Because nobody has any business to, to the other sections. Yeah, believe that. I always feel that I was talking in the Parliament and I was underlining the aspect that when I retire from Rajya Sabha, one thing which would be very much engraved in my mind would be this rich diversity that the House resonates, and how that rich diversity is a unique way of unity of this nation. So when we are talking about the advantage of this diversity of this great country, different cultures, language, cuisine, attire, when such words are being picked up to denigrate a section of the people, that is something uncalled for and unwarranted.
You know, you didn't just take a personal objection to it. you did not just say that you felt demeaned about it. You made it a Kerala pride issue, and not just Kerala pride issue. You made it a South Indian issue. You said, we are very proud of what we wear in South of India. When I tried reading up, and from my experience of seeing different parts of India, Mundu and different forms of Mundu or Lungi for that matter is very prevalent across South of India, but even in other parts of India. For example, in the east of India, where I have seen it myself, even from West Bengal for that matter, even in other parts, Odisha for that matter, up north, even Bihar and Uttar Pradesh. When you chose those words, and you are obviously from South, so you have all the right to say what you have to say, and you, as a parliamentarian, when you are speaking, to somebody who is saying, this wasn't about raising a bias. This was about politics and positioning oneself in politics. What would you say to that? And it's ironical that we are having this conversation now. Onam is round the corner. A whole lot of festivities in different parts of the country are around the corner when you're going to be wearing the Mundu and the Lungi. I mean, not the Lungi, but, different variants of it. How would you say that? What would you respond to that?
Yeah, I do agree with the fact that you see this Lungi is used across the nation. I have seen this Lungi-clad people from Uttar Pradesh, West Bengal. But mostly, if you look at the parliament, those people from the south only wear this dhoti. I have not seen anybody from the north coming with dhoti or what called mundu. So normally southern politicians are identified with this dhoti. That's very clear. So this usage was made on the floor of the house, not elsewhere. And most of the South Indian states are associated with dhotis or mundu, and they may be wrapping in a different way. Somebody may be tucking somewhere, maybe like Keralites just wrapping across. But when you see it as an attire, I always say it's a South Indian attire. And I recollect when Venkaiah Naidu was retiring as the chairman of Rajya Sabha, I had the opportunity to participate in that farewell. Now it's part of the records because anybody can look for that. I said one thing I admire about Venkaiah ji, I told him, is that he retained or rather enriched the southern culture. And I specifically mentioned about him saying that you have been identified with the Dravidian attire, spotless dhoti which you wear always. So that was something which was standing out. And I even mentioned about that in his farewell. Even our present Rajya Sabha chairman, many a time, come with a dhoti. So mostly the South Indian politicians are connected with, or rather they have this dhoti attire. See, Chidambaram has been wearing always dhoti in the house. Even his son Karthi has been coming, and I can see him in evening get-togethers in jeans and t-shirt. But diligently he make it a point that when he comes to the parliament he wears dhoti only. So maybe you are correct that this lungi or dhoti could be seen elsewhere, but in the political context or the context of the parliament, dhoti is associated with the South Indian politicians.
One is what happened in the parliament, and the other is what's been happening outside the parliament. For an MP from the left, do you see what's happened in Jantar Mantar? Reimagining not just politics, but reimagining the relevance and the force of left politics, with a whole lot of young leaders really taking the force, multiplying the force impact of the protests in Jantar Mantar. And this at a time when left governments have shrunk.
You want to drift away from the dhoti and lungi now and go to Jantar Mantar?
Why not? If you're okay with that, sir.
I can tell you one thing. After this dhoti lungi controversy, many politicians from the north, including Samajwadi Party leader Ram Gopal Yadav, Jaya Bachchanji, they all wanted to have the Kerala costume, dhoti and vesti and something like that. Even Jaya Bachchan today came to the parliament with the Kerala sari, and we took a picture together.
I know we have those pictures. If we can put these pictures out as well. Absolutely.
We express solidarity. And one more thing I'll tell you. You must have seen me with dhoti clad, Mundu clad Mallikarjun Kharge.
Oh yes, absolutely. We have those visuals on the screen as well, sir.
And see, Kharge went home for the lunch break and changed his attire and came back with dhoti mund to express solidarity. And the moment he stepped into parliament, he saw us and he said, I am also Lungi Wala. That was his expression. And we took a photograph which you are showing it. So I'm saying that he has resonated beyond, say, the regional politics. Many politicians from the North India. And one more interesting tidbit I can tell you one thing.
Please.
Abdul Wahab, Muslim League MP, came to parliament. He didn't have the dhoti around him. Then I think Mallikarjun Kharge himself said, why you are not wearing a dhoti? So we had a couple of dhotis in parliament itself because many had asked for the dhoti because Derek O'Brien wanted, Manoja wanted. So we had brought a few pieces of dhoti. So there and then a dhoti was handed over to him and he wrapped it. He came to the house over his pajama. I feel that. And from there, a BJP member, Radha Mohandas Agarwal, very prominent BJP member, standing committee chairman also, he's from Uttar Pradesh, he wanted to have that dhoti. Then I told Abdul Wahab, please hand over your dhoti because it's an extra dressing for you today. You already have something beneath that. So he folded and gave it to Radha Mohandas Agarwal in the house itself when the proceedings were going on. This is an exclusive for Sneha, okay. So I'm telling you how it has resonated. So let me just come to the Jantar Mandar part.
No, you know, I think it's very interesting how a piece of clothing, Mr. Brittas, and we were having this discussion as well about how what you wear and what you eat often has been part of politics. But when you talk particularly about the lungi and that becoming part of the national discourse and politics, possibly has been for the first time, and you've been at the center of it. So thank you for talking about that and being willing to come and speak about it. You know, there's a change in perception, there's a change in politics, there's a change in how politics is now being viewed and being delivered. You have a whole lot of Gen Z words that are now being thrown in, even in parliament. You were witness to that as well. You know, a whole lot of impact post Jantar Mantar of what has happened. And again, as I asked you earlier as well, how would you look, is what happened in Jantar Mantar also a reimagining of politics and relevance as a whole also for the left?
Yeah, I feel that, see, I have been part of this Jantar Mantar agitation. I must have visited Jantar Mantar at least 15 days or 16 days, all through this thick of this agitation. One thing I have felt is that agitation was beyond the so-called slogans which students were raising. It was essentially to reclaim space, democratic discourse, space of democratic discourse. And I could very well see with my naked eyes the spear of the fear just getting vanished. Earlier, there was a fear that was clammed upon the capital city because of the politicians who are prone to the so-called enforcement directorate or central agencies. But that thing just changed in Jantar Mantar. So if you ask me what would be the biggest contribution of the Jantar Mantar agitation, I can tell you that it has regained a democratic space for the people and organizations. And I could very well feel the fragrance of determination on the part of the students. They were not bothered about anything. And let me just connect that with the so-called Lungi issue also. Nobody could divide them. Nobody could ridicule them with regard to a cultural objective. As I rightly said, see, when a cultural identity becomes a tool for ridicule, there comes the issue. And many a time, many Westerners try to, spark such issues to segregate, to divide the students. But nothing of that worked. So this was something, a strong message which was given across the nation that, see, caste, religion, other cultural differences, diversities, and other nuances may not matter, should not matter, because when it is on a mission mode, this should not work that. So that is a profound message that has come across from Chandra Mother. And with regard to left politics, I do agree that we are nowhere in the power. We are the last, the post that was Kerala, we have lost it. But we always talk in terms of electoral politics, the physical structure of a political party. I always feel that the relevance of a political party, of course, the electoral performance, the political, physical structure matters, organizational structures. But beyond that, the influence and ideology can make impact at a given point. That also need to be counted. And I have spent many decades away from Kerala, and I have felt that how this ideology has helped people to, see many things with much more clarity.
Mr. Brittas, coming to this point, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but to just the point that you're making, there are many people who have spoken about the Jantar Mantar protests. There are some people, not many people, some people who have spoken about the protests and have said, oh, the rebellion and the left is the language of the youth. As they grow mature, as they grow old, they will see sense.
This is the stereotyping of politics always. I have come across such stereotyping saying that if you are not a communist before 30, there is something wrong with you. If you are a communist after 30, there is something wrong. These are all stereotype things actually. Your ideological orientation, your commitment to the society, your sensibility to the politics, the society, that matters actually. So I always feel that we are prone to such stereotyping. I'm just coming from a press conference of the JNU teachers and the students. See, the left parties, the left movement, left sympathizers are fighting to retain the sanctity of that great university. It has been completely polluted in many ways. Rampant corruption, scams have happened in JNU.
Right.
Regain even the academic sanctity of institutions, you need to have a clear-cut or a crystal-clear vision. And I feel that always the left ideology gives. And even Rahul Gandhi would admit for the matter that the Eastern influence a leader like late Siddharam Yechuri had on him is something which he acknowledges. So on the one count, we can talk about the electoral performance or the debacle of left parties, but I always feel that the influence of the left ideology is very much required at this juncture. And that's why the Prime Minister always used to say that we are not afraid about Congress, but we are much more concerned about the communists in this country.
Well, Mr. Brittas, thank you so much for taking time out and talking to us threadbare. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hope to see you in Kerala there shortly. Thank you.
See you soon, sir.